now start a new topic as the concept of the time value of money. The concept of the time value of money. Time value of money. So we now start a new topic as the concept of the time value of money. Now start a new topic as the concept of the time value of money. So in that concept, we shall be explaining why we require money today rather than receiving the same of money tomorrow. So we shall be looking at the future value and also the present value. Then in the process, we shall be coming up with how to use the present value table. So we can just have an introduction on that by writing that this concept explains why individuals prefer to receive cash today. It explains why individuals prefer to receive cash today, rather than receiving the same amount of money in the future. It explains why individuals prefer to receive cash today rather than receiving the same amount of money in the future. Then we continue by noting that due to the passage of time, the value of money will change. The value of money will change. And the purchasing power will decline. Due to inflation. The purchasing power will decline due to inflation. Then another paragraph, we summarize that individuals normally prefer current cash. They normally prefer current cash rather than the future cash. Individuals prefer the current cash rather than the future cash due to the following reasons. Number one would be that because of availability of the investment opportunities. Number one is because of the availability of the investment opportunities. I.e., the money available today can be invested. To generate extra income in the future. The money available today can be invested to generate extra income in the future. Then number two is that in order to take advantage of the cash discount, being offered by the supplier, in order to take advantage of the cash discount being offered by the supplier. Number three is that because of the individual's subjective preference for money, i.e., individuals prefer, i.e., individuals prefer to receive cash today. Individuals prefer to receive cash today. Individuals prefer to receive cash today rather than sorry, not rather than, due to their own individual reasons, due to their own individual reasons. So we can refer to one of the questions in your past papers in relation to that part. So there's a question in the sitting of November 2018. November 2018, there is a question number 1, part B. There is a question number 1, part B. So mine should be on page 40. When you check on page 40, there is a question number 1, part B. So that question 1, part B, there is only one item I want you to check, where they were asking you differentiate between the following terms as applied in finance, Roman letter 3. We are on the Roman letter 3. So that Roman letter 3, they say that time value of money and the time preference for money. The time value for money and the time preference for money. So time value of money, it simply explains why you should receive cash today rather than receiving cash in the future. And I've given you the reasons why you require money today rather than receiving that money in the future. Remember, when we shall be going through the concept, we shall realize that the value of 1 shilling today can even be higher than the value of 1,000 shillings tomorrow, because we don't know about tomorrow. Then also from the same part, you see the time preference for money. So that time preference for money is your reason number 3. You see the reason number 3 in the notes that we have just written. We have said that because of individual what? Subjective preference for money. So all of us today, even if you are given the same amount of money, you have different reasons why you are going to spend that money. If you are given money today, we have our own individual subjective reasons. That's what they refer to as the time preference for money. Time preference for money, it simply explains that individuals requires money for their own individual subjective reasons. Individuals require money for their own individual subjective reasons. All of you, if you are given the same cash today, you will not spend it on the same thing. Each one of you has got their own way how they are going to spend their money. So that is now all for that. Then a new paragraph, we can now summarize that. A new paragraph, we can now summarize that. The concept of the time value of money is analyzed as follows. The concept of the time value of money is analyzed as follows. The concept of the time value of money is analyzed as follows. So we start with A. Start off with the A. So A will be future value. Future value of an amount. So we start with A by looking at the future value of a single amount. The future value of single amount. So under that, we shall first summarize that compounding is the process of determining. Compounding is the process of determining the future value. Is the process of determining the future value of a given amount. It is the process of determining the future value of a given amount. Therefore, Therefore, the future value will involve. Therefore, the future value will involve incorporating. It will involve incorporating interest. Incorporating interest on the principal amount invested. Incorporating interest on the principal amount invested. Incorporating interest on the principal amount invested. So I will give you a small illustration to see how to calculate the future value. We can now have an illustration to see how to compute the future value. So we can summarize that. Consider an investor who has invested. Consider an investor who has invested 100,000 in the bank. Who has invested 100,000 in the bank, earning interest at a rate of 10% per annum. Earning interest at a rate of 10% per annum. Earning interest at a rate of 10% per annum. Determine the future value of this amount. Determine the future value of this amount at the end of the third year. Determine the future value of this amount at the end of the third year. Determine the future value of this amount at the end of the third year. So I will be giving you a schedule, then I'll also give you the formula for the same. So first, I want us to use the schedule. So if we use the schedule, we can have the year, amount at the start. Amount at the start, then interest at 10% per annum, then also amount at the end. Amount at the end. Also amount at the end. So there will be the year, amount at the start, interest at 10% per annum, and also amount at the end. So we start off with year one. So this person started with 100,000 at the start of year one. So he was earning interest of 10%. So we get 10% of 100,000. It will be 10,000. So amount at the end, you add now that amount plus interest. The amount you now have at the end, you add. So at the end, you should be having 110,000. So that 110,000 is now the amount at the start of year two. So we also get 10% of that figure to give you the interest. So our interest must be 11,000. So when you add 11,000 on 110, you get 121,000. Then that amount is also the same figure at the start of year three, 121,000. So interest will be 12,000. 100. Yeah, so 12,100 plus 121,000 should give us 133,100. Yeah, so this is now your future value. This is now our future value. Then this one was our present value. This is what we had as the present value at the start. So at the start, you had 100,000, but after 3 years, that amount has accumulated to 133,100. So I will give you a formula. Instead of you now using that schedule, it is easier to operate with a formula because it will reduce that particular computation. So we can now add there a paragraph by summarizing that. Using the future value, comma, the future value of the single amount. Using the formula, comma, the future value of the single amount will be expressed as follows. The future value of the single amount will be expressed as follows. The future value of the single amount will be expressed as follows. So you simply get the present value 1 plus r raised to the power of n. So now when you want to get the future value, you simply take the present value 1 plus r, then we raise to the power of n. So our present value is the 100,000. Our present value is the 100,000. Then r is the interest rate, which is 10%. 10% is the same as 0.1. Then n was 3 years. So you confirm what figure are we going to have in relation to that. And that's 100. Yeah, so now you, instead of using the schedule, you will calculate now using the formula like that. Yeah, so instead of now using the schedule, it is easier to apply now the formula. So that is how to deal with the future value of the single amount. Future value for the single amount. So I want us now to go to B. A we have seen as the future value for the single amount. So I want us now to go to B. I want us now to go to B. I want us now to go to B. So B is supposed to be the future value of the annuity. The future value of the annuity. So B, we look at the future value of the annuity. Future value of the annuity. So we shall be explaining the meaning of the annuity. And now we see how to compute the annuity. So remember, when you are receiving cash or paying cash, which is the same every period for a given period of time, that figure we normally refer to it as annuity. Like now when you are being paid a salary, you are paid the same salary every month, let's say for the entire year. So that amount that you are receiving or paying, which is the same every period for a given period of time, we normally refer to it as annuity. Annuity is simply the same amount received or paid each period for a given period of time. So that amount we should refer to it as the annuity. So when you get the same figure or you pay the same figure of money every period for a given spread period of time, that amount you are paying every time, we should be referring to it as the annuity. So we can now summarize that. Annuity refers to equal amount received or paid each period. Annuity refers to equal amount received or paid. Equal amount received or paid each period for a given number of period. Each period for a given number of period. For a given number of period. For a given number of period. E.g. salary. E.g. the salary, comma, insurance premiums. insurance premiums, comma, retirement benefit, comma, rent, etc. Then we continue by summarizing that annuity is classified into two categories. Annuity is classified into two categories. Annuity is classified into two categories. Roman letter 1 will be ordinary annuity. Roman letter 1 will be ordinary annuity. So for the ordinary annuity, you summarize that it is where cash flows will occur at the end of each period. Ordinary annuity is where the cash flows will occur at the end of each period. It is where cash flows will occur at the end of each period. E.g., the salary, comma, retirement benefits, etc. The salary, comma, retirement benefits, etc. The retirement benefits, etc. So that's now what we refer to as ordinary annuity. Then Roman letter 2 will be annuity due. So Roman letter 2, we can have it as the annuity due. So for the annuity due, we also comment that it is where cash flows occur at the beginning of each period. It is where cash flows occur at the beginning of each period. It is where cash flows occur at the beginning of each period. E.g., rent, comma, insurance premiums, etc. So we know the reason why rent must be paid at the beginning. We know the reason why the salary must be paid at the end. So all of them are about risk, and we should be able now to weigh who should now bear the risk. So I would like now to give you an illustration to see how to get the future value of the annuity. We can now have an illustration to see how to compute the future value for the annuity. So we can summarize that. Consider an individual who expects to receive. Consider an individual who expects to receive shillings 10,000 at the end of each year. Consider an individual who expects to receive shillings 10,000 at the end of each year. At the end of each year for the next 3 years. At the end of each year for the next 3 years. Then we continue by summarizing that if the prevailing interest rate is 10%, if the prevailing interest rate is 10%, determine the future value of this amount. 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 So let us check how we can be able to compute the future value for that amount. So to compute the future value, so I've already given you a small formula that we used for the single amount. We can first apply that formula, then in the process, I give you now a summarized one. So we can use the schedule, the year, then we have said present value 1 plus r plus the power of n in order to get the future value like this. So we have that kind of the formula already to see how you can be able to come up with the future value. So we start with the year one. So this person is receiving 10,000 each year at the end of each year for the next 3 years. So at the end of the year one, we receive 10,000. And the interest rate I've given you what percent. So if you receive money at the end of year one, and you are supposed to have that money for 3 years, you reinvest for how many remaining years? Because you are looking at the future. Yeah, so N will be 2. Yeah, we are looking for the future value. So if you receive money at the end of year one, and it is supposed to be there for 3 years, you get interest for the remaining 2 years. So N will be 2. So that will give you the future value. Then also, at the end of year 2, this person also gets 10,000. 1 plus 0.1. So N will be 1. You reinvest it for the remaining 1 year because you have received it at the end of year 2. Then also, the same person receives another 10,000 at the end of year 3. So N will be 0. N. So get those totals, then you add them together. So you add them together and see if they are. So it should be able to give us it 3,100. So we are getting that 3,100. Then I can now add there a paragraph by summarizing that using the formula, comma, the future value of the annuity, the future value for the annuity will be expressed as follows. Using the formula, comma, the future value of the annuity will be expressed as follows. The future value of the annuity will be expressed as follows. So when you want to compute the future value of the annuity, you simply take the annuity, then in the brackets of 1 plus r, raised to the power of n minus 1, then divided by r. So now, instead of using that sheet that I've given you, we can now apply that formula in order to see how to get the future value for the annuity. How we can be able to get the future value for the annuity. We can now apply that formula to see how to get the future value. So we know the annuity was the 10,000 every year. 10,000 every year. Then 1 plus. So R is meant to be, was it 10%? So the rest the power of 3 minus 1 also 0.1. So compute and see what figure are we going to have. So you should be able to get the same figure. We should be able to get the same value. Yeah. So that is how you now apply this part. Instead of you preparing the schedule, like we have done the other one, we now just come up with that summary. So that is when the cash is received at the end. So we also want to know if we receive it at the beginning. So maybe you can add there another paragraph. We can now add there another paragraph by summarizing that. Assume that the investor in the example above, assume that the investor in the example above was to receive the 10,000, was to receive the 10,000, was to receive the 10,000 at the beginning of each year, was to receive the 10,000 at the beginning of each year, at the beginning of each year. Determine the future value. Determine the future value of the annuity due. Determine the future value of the annuity due. Determine the future value of the annuity due. So I'll use both methods. So this time, cash flows are occurring at the beginning. The cash flows are occurring at the beginning. So what you do, you're having the year, then present value 1 plus R, this is part of n. Then now the future value. I want to use both formats, the way we have done. So when you receive that money at the start of year 1, so it will be 10,000, 1 plus 0.1. But now this time around, n will be 3. Because you have received at the start of year 1. So you reinvest it for the remaining 3 years. The other one, it was at the end. That's why n was 2. So this one, n 3. That's the part. Also year 2, it will be 10,000, 1 plus 0.1. N will be 2. That's the value. Also fix the value. So you add them together and confirm the figure. So it is giving us 26, 36,400. Yeah, so maybe we can now add there a paragraph by noting that using the formula, comma, the future value of the annuity due, using the formula, comma, the future value of the annuity due will be expressed as follows. The future value of the annuity due will be expressed as follows. So when you want to get the future value of the annuity due. So the other one was ordinary annuity. This one is the annuity due. So you simply take that annuity, then 1 plus R is the power of n minus 1 divided by R. But after that, multiply again by 1 plus R. So we shall just have it in that order. But after that, we also multiply by 1 So our annuity there is 10 times 1, 0 point. Also divide by 5. So you confirm whether they are giving the same figure. You want to know whether they will give you the same value. Yeah. So that should be now on the future value for the annuity. That should now be on the future value for the annuity. So I also want us to go to C. So we started with A, B, now we go to C. So C should be present value of single amount. So we go to the present value of single amount. Present value for the single amount. So far we have been dealing with the future value, but we want now to see how to commit the present value. So it is just a reverse of the future value for the single amount. So maybe we can write something brief on that by summarizing that discounting is the process of determining. Discounting is the process of determining. Discounting is the process of determining the present value of determining the present value of a given future amount. Determining the present value of a given future amount. So I will give you an illustration to see how to get the present value. So we can write that is now an illustration that assume you expect to receive shillings 50,000. Assume you expect to receive shillings 50,000 4 years from now. 4 years from now. 4 years from now. If the prevailing interest rate is 12%, if the prevailing interest rate is 12%, if the prevailing interest rate is 12%, determine the present value of this amount. Determine the present value of this amount. Determine the present value of this amount. So, from what we have seen, the formula for the future value. So, from the formula of the future value for the single amount, it was. So, we simply make present value to be the subject. We simply make the present value to be the subject. So if by any chance we make present value to be the subject, it will be the future value divided by 1 plus r raised to the power of n. So if I want to remove the denominator, so that all of them are numerator, so this one will be the same as the future value. 1 plus r raised to the power of negative n. Because we want to do away with the denominator. When you change our denominator to be our numerator, it's normally changed to be our negative. When you change our numerator to be our denominator to be our numerator. So in that question, we have been told that this person is supposed to receive how much? 50,000 4 years from now. So the future value of that amount is 50,000. So what was the interest rate? 12% will be 0.12. So we raise the power of negative. So what I want you to do first, I want you to calculate that figure in brackets separately. Then round it off for me to 4 decimal places because we want to compare it with something else. So I want you to compare that figure in brackets separately, round it off to 4 decimal places so that we compare it with something else. 0.655. Because we want to compare it with something else. Then we can now add there a paragraph by summarizing that using the present value table, comma, the present value of the cash flows will be expressed as follows. The present value of the cash flows will be expressed as follows. The present value of the cash flows will be expressed as follows. So when now you want to compute the present value, you simply take the future value multiplied by present value interest factor at R% in period N. So it will just be given by get the present value, you simply take the future value multiplied by. So this one is present value interest factor. This one is present value interest factor, R% for period N. R% for period N. So this future value, I gave you how much? 50,000. Then present value is, so R is the 12%. N is 4 years. N is meant to be 4 years. N is meant to be the 4 years. So R is the interest rate. So there are some tables that you have in your past papers. There are some tables at the back. There are some. So one of them is present value interest factor for the annuity. We are not using the one for the annuity. So you see there are 2 of them. There's one for the annuity, the other one is not for the annuity. Hapo juu wameandika something. Are you able to see up there how they have indicated them? So up there, kuna hiyo wameandika present value interest factor of 1 received at the end of any period and so on. Then the other one, they have said that present value interest factor for the annuity. So we are not using the one for the annuity. We use the other one. The other one is the single period. So online, I hope you can see those tables. Online, I hope you can see those tables. There is one for the annuity. This one that we are using is not for the annuity, it is for the single amount. So I want you to go to that table, check up. Are you able to see 12%? Move downwards to period 4. Are you able to see the figure? It is 0.6355. So that figure is there in the table, or you can calculate it using the formula that we have just applied. So you can either calculate it or you simply use the formula that is given in the table. So that is now how we shall be using those tables to get the present value. We apply the tables to come up with the present value. Then I will also give you another illustration that consider a 4-year project. Consider a 4-year project. Consider a 4-year project, which is expected to generate the following cash flows. Consider a 4-year project, which is expected to generate the following cash flows. Generate the following cash flows, which is expected to generate the following cash flows, which is expected to generate the following cash flows. So we can be having the year and also the cash flows. So year 1, it is 120,000. Year 2, it is 80,000. Year 3, it is 70,000. Then year 4, it is 60,000. So you can now add there a paragraph that if the discounting rate is 16%, if the discounting rate is 16%, if the discounting rate is 16%, compute present value of these cash flows. Compute the present value of these cash flows. Compute the present value of these cash flows. So I want us now to use the table because I've shown you how to check in the table. So what you can do, you can have it as the year, then cash flows, then present value interest factor. Present value interest factor. So I gave you 16%, so that you get the present values like that. So you can arrange it in that manner, so that we have year 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want you to check in the table so that we fill them here. So what is 16% in year 1? 0.862 to 1. How about here too? 743. 3. Then here 3. Then how about here 4? 0.57. Who confirm? 0.5. 2, 3. Yeah, so what you do now, multiply this by this figure, you get that value. Also multiply this by this, you get the value. Also this by this, you get the value. Then, now you will add them together. So online, I hope people are seeing where we are getting those figures from the table. Online, are we able to see those figures from the table? There are 2 tables. I hope you can differentiate them. Make sure that you see those figures from the table. So I was saying, after getting the figures in the table, now you multiply this by that to get the value at that point. Also multiply this by this to get the value. This, but then finally, you will add for me those totals. Finally, you will add for me those totals. So it has given us each value. Uh, 240, 95. Online, you are getting which totals? When you add, you are coming up with which value? Someone who has computed. So I've seen 248.95. So that has been C, the present value for the single amount. Let us now go to D. We go to D. Check D. So we go to D as the present value. Present value of annuity. So now we look at the present value of annuity. So we have just looked at the present value of the single amount. We now go to the present value of the annuity. So far, I've explained what we mean by the annuity, also what we mean by the present value. So what I would simply do for that case, I will just give you a formula. So I will simply give you an illustration. Then we do it now using the second table. And also we calculate it because there are two tables that you have. So let us have an illustration. We can write an illustration. So in the illustration, we can summarize that. Consider an investor. Consider an investor who expects to receive. Consider an investor who expects to receive shillings 100,000. Shillings 100,000 at the end. Shillings 100,000 at the end of each year. At the end of each year. At the end of each year for the next 4 years. For the next 4 years. For the next 4 years. If the prevailing interest rate, if the prevailing interest rate or discounting rate, if the prevailing interest rate or discounting rate is 12%, if the prevailing interest rate or discounting rate is 12%, discounting rate is 12%, determine present value of these cash flows. Determine the present value of these cash flows. Determine the present value of these cash flows. So now we can start by writing that using the formula, comma, the present value of the annuity will be calculated as follows. Using the formula, the present value of the annuity will be expressed as follows. Using the formula, the present value for the annuity will be expressed as follows. So to get the present value for the annuity, we simply take the annuity, then 1 minus 1 plus r raised to the power of -n. Then we divide by r like that. So it simply be the annuity, then 1 minus in brackets 1 plus r raised to the power of -n. Then we divide by r. So annuity, we have said, how much is it? So there is 100,000. So 1 minus r, I've given you what percent? 12% is 0.12. So n is -1. So I would like you first of all get this figure in brackets separately, but round it off to 4 decimal places because the values in the table are rounded off to 4 decimal places. So get that figure, round it off to 4 decimal places so that we can now, because the values in the table are rounded off to 4 decimal places. Sorry.
0.03.
So that is now when you calculate. That's now when you code. So online, I hope everyone is okay with that figure. Are we all able to get that figure? Remember, I said you round them off into 4 decimal places before you multiply by that one. Okay, you are getting? And that's you are getting it. About 3 points. 75. Online, someone to confirm for me that. Sorry. When you round it off to 4 decimal places. No, just combine all of them together. Yeah. First, just don't compute separately. Just combine those figures in brackets together. So don't separate them. Just combine all of them together. When you combine them together, we come to that figure. Yeah. So now we can add there a paragraph by noting that using the present value table of the annuity, using the present value table of the annuity, using the present value table of the annuity, comma, the present value of the cash flows will be expressed as follows. The present value of the cash flows will be expressed as follows. The present value of the cash flows will be expressed as follows. So now the present value will be annuity multiplied by present value interest factor for the annuity. Annuity or present value interest factor for the annuity. So at R%, so it will be our annuity is how much? Yeah, so present value interest factor for the annuity. R was the cost of capital, which was what percent? Was 12% for 4 years. So I want you to go to the other table. They have indicated there as the annuity table. I want you to check the other table, which is the annuity table. Also confirm 14%, so the 12% in year 4. Which figure is there in the table? 3.0373. So when you check now in the annuity table, you will be able to get those details. When now you check in the annuity table, you will be able to get those details. So there is a question in your past papers, April 2022, question number 2, part A. April 2022. Question number 2, part A. You go to page 6. You go to page 6. Go to page 6. Go to page 6. So that page 6 is a question number 2, part A, where they have said that James Chege intends to accumulate 10 millions in the bank. He intends to accumulate 10 millions in the bank account 15 years from now. So 15 years from now. So required amount he should deposit now. The amount he should deposit now, assuming that the bank is offering 5% interest rate per annum, but it is compounded what? It is compounded semi-annually. It is compounded semi-annually. So this person wants to have 10 million in the bank 15 years from now. So that figure is the future value. 15 years from now, he wants to have 10 million. So what should he invest today? What should he invest today? What should he invest today? So you will be using the present value table for the single amount. The present value table for the single amount. So you use the present value for the single amount. You use the present value for the single amount. So we get the present value for the single amount. So the present value for the single amount. Remember, I gave you the formula. Future value in the brackets of 1 plus r raised to the power of -n. So we shall be applying that formula of the present value of the single amount. So they have stated that so we need to get R. They have said that that interest rate is what percent? 5%. But now 5% is per annum, but here it is being compounded semi-annual. So it will be 5 divided by 2, so that we get the interest per period. It will be 5 divided by 2. So 5 divided by 2, it will 2.5. Then N is how many years from now?
15.
So we take 15, but each year it is twice. Compounded and so each year it is twice. So that means our N will be that. N is going to be 30. So now to get the present value. So that future values you want to accumulate, it was how much? So you take the 10 millions, then 1 plus. So R is 2.5. 2.5 is the same as 0.0. So rest the power of negative. So we could not use the table because 2.5% is not in the table. But you can now calculate. So we said it is good for us to compute separately. You round it off to 4 decimal places for us now to have the infinite figure. But now that we are not using the table, maybe you can just calculate it directly. Just calculate it directly and see how much it will be. Just get 1 plus 0.025, rest the power of negative 30, then multiplied by 10 million and see what figure are we going to come up with. So what should he deposit in the bank today? The 4 million, 767, 426. Yeah, so that should now be the amount he should have in the bank today. So that should be now on the present value for the single amount, because they were saying that he intended to accumulate 10 million in the bank for 15 years from now. So the amount he should deposit now, that is a single amount. That is a single amount. Then they have given you the future value. Just come up with that concept. So that should have been our D. So we go to E in our notes. We have been arranging them. We go to E. So E is present value of the annuity in perpetuity. Present value of the annuity in perpetuity. Present value of the annuity in perpetuity. Present value for the annuity in perpetuity. So under that, we can summarize that it refers to the annuity. It refers to the annuity which is received or paid each year. It refers to the annuity which is received or paid each year. Which is received or paid each year until infinity. It refers to the annuity which is received or paid each year until infinity. Which is received or paid each year until infinity. Therefore, the present value of the annuity until infinity. Therefore, the present value of the annuity until infinity will be expressed as follows. Therefore, the present value of the annuity until infinity will be expressed as follows. The present value for the annuity until infinity. So to compute present value of the annuity up to infinity. Present value for the annuity up to infinity to simply be equal to the annuity divide by cost of capital. Cost of capital. So cost of capital is the interest. So it will be the same as annuity divided by R. So our cost of capital is the interest. Remember, it can also be the same as annuity multiplied by 1 over R. It can also be the annuity multiplied by 1 over R. So it can also be the same as annuity. So the reason why we do it that way, because up to infinity it is not in the table. Up to infinity it will not be in the table. So that is now E. There is also F. We can now also have F. F will be present value of the growing annuity in perpetuity. Present value of the growing annuity in perpetuity. Present value of growing annuity in perpetuity. So for that, you simplify that. This is where annuity is expected to increase. It is where annuity is expected to increase at a constant growth rate per annum until infinity. This is where the annuity is expected to increase at a constant growth rate per annum until infinity. It is where annuity is expected to increase at a constant growth rate per annum until infinity. It is present value will be expressed as follows. It is present value will be expressed as follows. It is present value is expressed as follows. So now to get the present value of the annuity, which is growing up to infinity. That is present value for the annuity, which is growing up to infinity. So it will be given by annuity in period 1. Annuity in period 1. Then we divide by the cost of capital. The cost of capital. Then we subtract constant growth rate. Constant growth rate. So it will be annuity in period 1 divided by cost of capital minus the constant growth rate. So it will be the same as annuity in period 1 R minus G. So annuity in period 1 will be annuity in So that should now be our F. So finally there is G. Finally, we shall be having G. So finally we go to G. So G is supposed to be the present value of differential annuity. So we look over the present value of differential annuity. Differential annuity. The differential annuity. The differential annuity. So that one, I think we shall do it in our next class because it's almost time and we may not do much about it. So we can stop there for now. Can stop there for now. So when we meet, we shall now finish that part. So I'm only, today's class, I'm only showing you how to use the two tables. There are two tables that are there. And going forward now, we shall be constantly be using the table. We shall constantly be using the table. So now after that, we shall now conclude that particular topic. So let us stop there for today.